Welcome to the Cup of Joe Wrestling Show.
Cup of Joe Wrestling Show?
With Joey Harris. A podcast for the wrestling fan on the go. So take your favorite beverage of choice and join Joey as he takes a look at some of the biggest shows on the WWE Network.
Welcome to the Cup of Joe Wrestling Show. I'm your host, Joey Harris, and we are broadcasting from makeshift studios in the shadow of South Central Virginia. Follow the show's Twitter at Cup of Joe Pod. Email the show at cupofjoewrestlingshow@gmail.com. To support the show at paypal.me/cupofjoepod. I'm also on Cash App and Venmo at the Joey Harris. Folks, back again. Had a busy week. I took my dad, my uncle, and my father-in-law to the NASCAR Hall of Fame in Charlotte, North Carolina, and that was good. I'm not the biggest NASCAR fan, but I found it interesting. It was interesting enough to occupy a couple of hours on a Saturday anyway, so it was good to get away, good to spend time with them. And my father-in-law and I were driving back to his house so I could drop him off, and we saw not one but two of those Tesla Cybertrucks, and man, I tell you, those things were wild, man. I'm not against anybody having one. You want one, go out and make your heart's content, but it's just wild seeing those things actually in public after hearing about them for so long. But anyway, today we look at Bash at the Beach 1994 from WCW. Bash at the Beach 94 was shown on pay-per-view on July 17, 1994 from the Orlando Arena in Orlando, Florida. There were 14,000 in attendance. We start out with our intro. Tony Schiavone, Bobby Heenan, and Mean Gene Okerlund welcome us to Bash at the Beach. They talk about the main event. They throw it to Darren Norwood to sing the national anthem. He does a commendable job. Flashback to sensuous Sherry attacking Sting on WCW Saturday Night to knock Sting out of action. WCW World Television Championship match, Lord Steven Regal with Sir William versus Johnny B. Bad. Regal and William are so good in their roles. A USA chant goes out. The bell rings, and they circle each other. They lock up and drive to the corner and break. They trade moves. Another lock up and break. Bad with a wrist lock. Regal backs away. Bad with a side headlock. Regal comes back with a takedown. He monkey flips Bad out of the corner. Bad comes back. Regal with a side headlock. Bad with an arm drag. Regal with a single leg pickup. Back and forth. Regal with a side headlock again. They trade blows. Even pace match, and Bad has become a good wrestler. Regal on the outside to regroup with Sir William. Regal with a series of European uppercuts. Bad gets Regal down with a hammerlock. Regal gets to the ropes. Bad tries for a hammerlock again, but Regal gets a back elbow. Regal with a headbutt. Back and forth. Bad with a wrist lock. Regal with European uppercuts to try to get out. Bad with a corner whip and drop kick for a 2 count. Bad with a Beal out of the corner. Bad with the kiss that don't miss that knocks Regal to the outside. Bad then hits a tope on Regal and William. He throws Regal in. They trade pin attempts, but Regal gets the pin with a roll-up. Bad beats up Sir William after the match. Tony and Bobby talk about the main event. Mean Gene talks to Antonio Inoki. Gene presents an award to Inoki. They get interrupted by Steven Regal and Sir William. He says he put away one legend and can put away Inoki as well. Inoki says he can take on Regal, who backs away. Jesse Ventura joins Tony on commentary. Last major event for Jesse in WCW. He had been downgraded as an announcer when Bobby Heenan joined WCW, and as soon as Hulk Hogan came on board, you knew it was only a matter of time. You can tell Jesse's anger towards Hogan when Tony asked him who he thinks is going to win the main event. Vader with Harley Race versus the Guardian Angel. The fans are into the Guardian Angel. Race gets into Angel's face, and Angel throws Race out, only to get attacked by Vader. Vader is hitting Angel with some hard shots. Vader with a spin kick. Angel comes back with right hands. He takes Vader's mask off and slams Vader. He follows it up with a clothesline. They fight to the outside. Angel takes out Race, and Vader jumps Angel. They fight back in the ring. Vader with a big body splash to knock Angel down. Angel goes for a sunset flip, but Vader drops down on Angel. Vader gets a leg lock on. He then gets a crossface on. He gets a 2 count. They trade shots. Vader hits a Vader bomb. He then hits a moonsault, but both men are down. Race goes to the top, but gets caught, and the Guardian Angel slams Race off. Vader clothesline to the apron. Race thrown to the outside, but drops something in the corner in a subtle move. Vader suplexed in from the corner. Angel bumps Vader into referee Jimmy Jet. Race gives Vader a telescopic nightstick. Angel gets the stick. He doesn't use it, but Jet sees him holding it and disqualifies the Guardian Angel. Flashback to what led to the next match. Molly McShane is shown beating the Sassy Boys before the pay-per-view began as part of the Ron and Ron show. Grudge match. Terry Funk and Bunkhouse Buck with Colonel Parker and Ming versus Dustin Rhodes and Arn Anderson. Rhodes and Anderson get a good reaction when they come out. Buck and Anderson start. They lock up and push off. Buck says he wants Rhodes, and Rhodes tags in. He pushes Buck down, and Funk tagged in. Rhodes unloads on Funk. Funk bumping like crazy for Rhodes. Funk chopping Rhodes on the ropes. Funk with a scoop slam. Rhodes comes back. He dumps Funk over the top, and then Buck. Rhodes with an atomic drop to both heels. He drops an elbow on Funk. Funk hits a belly-to-back suplex to Rhodes. Buck tagged in. Rhodes ducks the clothesline but misses a crossbody and spills out to the floor. Funk out and throws Rhodes into the barricade. Anderson comes to check on Rhodes, but the referee makes him go back. The heels keep up the attack. Rhodes thrown back in. Buck slams Rhodes and gets an abdominal stretch. Double team on Rhodes. Funk tagged in and hits a neck breaker and a pile driver, but Anderson makes the save. Buck tagged in. He gets a front face lock on Rhodes. Rhodes double teamed in the corner. Rhodes fights his way out of the corner. Rhodes backdrops both heels. He runs them together. He takes on both men. Parker up on the apron. Rhodes knocks him off and tags Anderson in. Anderson DDTs Rhodes. Funk covers Rhodes and gets the pin. The crowd is shocked. They all then take turns stomping on Rhodes. Officials out to break it up. Mean Gene talks to Anderson and Parker. Anderson says they are off to celebrate. Bobby rejoins Tony and a talk to Hank Aaron. He's excited to be here. Fall brawl ad. Then Bobby and Tony talk about what happened to Dustin Rhodes. Mean Gene talks to Ric Flair and Sensuous Sherry. He's happy about what Arn Anderson did to Dustin Rhodes. He then talks about taking on Hulk Hogan. He talks about all the celebrities here, and then he and Sherry talk about taking Hulk Hogan down. United States Championship match. Steve Austin versus Ricky Steamboat. Steamboat out first, and he does his fire-breathing gimmick. Austin comes out looking very confident. Austin attacks Steamboat as the bell rings. They trade chops. Steamboat kicks Austin off, and Austin hits a ring post. Steamboat slams Austin down. Austin is beating Steamboat down in the corner. Austin starts to go up top, but Steamboat drop kicks Austin, and he is hanging by his feet over the top rope. Steamboat takes advantage. Steamboat with an arm drag. They battle for position. Steamboat with an armbar. Steamboat working on Austin's leg. Austin acts hurt, but Steamboat doesn't give up. Austin falls to the outside. He drags Steamboat out and attacks him. It goes back in and Steamboat gets a sleeper on. He gets Austin down and gets an armbar on after a 2 count. He keeps the armbar on as Austin tries to get out. Austin with a low blow to get out. Austin with a short arm clothesline. He follows it up with a belly-to-back suplex. Austin with a back elbow, but Steamboat won't stay down. Steamboat spilled outside. Austin suplexes Steamboat back in from the apron to get a 2 count. Steamboat with a slam for a 2 count. Steamboat goes back to the armbar. Austin is fighting the pain. Steamboat dropping knees on the arm. He goes to a wrist lock on Austin. Back into an armbar. Austin up. They collide and Steamboat with a bridge for a 2 count. Austin slams Steamboat down. Austin drops a knee on Steamboat. He rubs Steamboat's face into the mat. He hits the knee from the middle turnbuckle. Steamboat up and once more. Austin chops Steamboat in the corner. They chop each other. Steamboat gets a catapult for a 2 count. Steamboat chopping Austin again. Austin with a swinging net breaker for a 2 count. Austin runs Steamboat into the mat and gets some 2 counts. Steamboat won't stay down. Steamboat knocks Austin away. Back and forth. He hits Steamboat with a leapfrog body guillotine. He goes for it again, and Steamboat hits him with a stun gun. Both men are down. They fight out to the apron. Austin throws Steamboat into a barricade. Steamboat runs Austin into a ring post. Steamboat with a chop from the top rope and punches to Austin. He hits a backdrop and gets a 2 count. Steamboat skins the cat and comes back to chop Austin again. Austin is trying to get disqualified. Steamboat keeps getting 2 counts. They keep reversing piledriver attempts until Steamboat hits one. Steamboat goes for another top rope chop. Austin pulls referee Randy Anderson in front of him. Anderson goes to disqualify Austin, but Steamboat begs him not to. Steamboat with a takedown. Steamboat with a crossbody, but Austin rolls through and gets the pin with his feet on the ropes. Mean Gene comes into Colonel Parker's suite where they are in celebration. Parker says he can trust the Honorable Arn Anderson. Anderson says he was laying in a hospital bed in England, and for what? He wasn't a crusader. He's the old Arn Anderson. That was wild, him talking about real life like that. Flashback to the Sid incident in England, for those of you in the know. WCW Tag Team Championship match. Kevin Sullivan and Cactus Jack with Dave Sullivan versus Pretty Wonderful Paul Orndorff and Paul Roma. It takes a while for them to get started. Sullivan and Orndorff start. Orndorff is stalling to avoid locking up. Orndorff with a couple of moves, and he poses for the crowd. Jack and Roma tagged in. Roma with a single leg pickup. More stalling. Jack with a side headlock, and Sullivan tagged in. Double team on Roma. Sullivan and Orndorff in. Orndorff beats Sullivan in the corner. Jack blocks an Orndorff corner whip to allow Sullivan to come back on Orndorff. All four in, and the heels are getting beat down. They roll out to regroup. Jack and Orndorff back in. Jack with a side headlock. Orndorff with forearms to knock Jack out. They battle on the outside. All four brawling again. Sullivan tagged back in. He and Orndorff exchange shots. Sullivan knocks both heels down. Jack tagged in against Orndorff. He gets Orndorff down with a hammerlock. Sullivan tagged in. He beats and kicks on Orndorff. Jack back in, and Pretty Wonderful takes turns kicking him. Jack and Orndorff trade blows. Pretty Wonderful double team Jack. Jack reverses a suplex on Orndorff. Sullivan tagged in and ran Orndorff into the corner repeatedly. He gets a 2 count. Jack tagged in. He hits a back elbow. Sullivan is in and works on the arm of Orndorff. Jack in with a front face lock. They start the wave in the crowd. Sullivan tagged in and Roma tagged in. Roma with shots in the corner. Jack comes in and referee Nick Patrick stops him, allowing Orndorff to pile drive Sullivan. He gets a 2 count and Orndorff stomps Sullivan. Roma tagged in. He slams Sullivan and hits a top rope elbow for a 2 count. Orndorff goes in and drops an elbow again. Orndorff with a chin lock. He gets a sleeper on Sullivan, who falls back into a turnbuckle to break the hold. Roma tagged in and gets a chin lock on. All four back in. Patrick gets the extra men out. Roma with a front face lock. Orndorff tagged in. Sullivan gets his boot up on a charge. Roma tagged in. Pretty Wonderful double teaming again. Orndorff comes in and gets Sullivan down again. Roma is in and misses a swan dive. Jack tagged in against Orndorff. He clotheslines Orndorff and all four back in the ring. Jack hits the double arm DDT, but Patrick is trying to get the other two out of the ring. Roma knocks Jack down and holds his legs while Orndorff makes the cover, and we have new tag team champions. Tony and Bobby talk about the main event. Main event for the WCW World Heavyweight Championship. Ric Flair with Sensuous Sherry versus Hulk Hogan with Jimmy Hart. Michael Buffer introduces WCW Commissioner Nick Bockwinkel. Shaquille O'Neal is introduced. Flair and Sherry are introduced. Flair gets his share of cheers. Hogan does get a great ovation when he comes out. He rips his t-shirt when he gets in the ring. Buffer does the introductions. Shaq presents the bell. The bell rings and they circle each other. Hogan with a shoulder block. He then shoves Flair off. Flair struts to psych out Hogan. The crowd woos at Flair. Hogan ducks, locking up, and mocks Flair. Flair with a hammerlock to take Hogan down. Into a wrist lock. He cranks on it. Hogan reverses into an armbar. Hogan is trying to show off some wrestling skills, and while he can do it, he is clunky doing it. Flair goes outside and hides behind Sherry when Hogan follows. Hogan gets back in the ring while Flair regroups with Sherry. Flair gets back in the ring and bumps hard for Hogan. Flair begging off. Flair Irish whipped, but he bails out when Hogan goes for the big boot. Flair gets back in and attacks Hogan when he gets back in. Flair with a snap mare. Hogan halts up. He bites Flair and gets corner-mounted punches. He runs Flair into some turnbuckles. Sherry grabs Hogan's leg, and Flair takes advantage and attacks Hogan. Hogan falls out of the ring, and Sherry grabs a chair. Jimmy Hart grabs the chair from her when she goes to use it. Flair continues to attack Hogan. Flair with a top rope chop to get Hogan down. He drops a knee on Hogan. They trade moves. Hogan with a clothesline. Flair with a chin lock and Hogan on the mat and fading. Hogan is trying to get out. Anderson checks the arm, but it doesn't fall 3 times. Hogan comes back. He hits a series of shoulder blocks. Flair corner whipped up and over and gets clotheslined on the apron, so take a shot if you're drinking at home. Hogan comes out after Flair. He hits Flair with a belly-to-back suplex on the floor. He suplexes Flair in. He misses a leg drop and Flair moves. Hogan injured. Flair goes for the figure 4, but Hogan rolls him up for a 2 count. Hogan kicks off another figure 4 attempt. Flair with a delayed suplex, but Hogan gets up. Hogan with a big boot and gets a 2 count before Sherry pulls Anderson out of the ring. Hogan goes after Sherry and Flair clips his knee. Sherry climbs up top and splashes Hogan. Nick Patrick comes down to check on Anderson and then gets in the ring so the match can continue. Flair gets the figure 4 on. Hogan is fighting it. He goes to the ropes. Flair distracts Patrick while Sherry takes off a nylon and chokes Hogan with it. Flair goes back to working on the leg. Flair chopping Hogan in the corner. Hogan comes back with punches. Flair with an elbow. Sherry goes back to the top, but misses the splash when Hogan moves. Flair goes up top, but gets slammed off. Sherry gets taken out by Hogan. Hogan gets the figure 4 on. Sherry gets in the ring. She goes to throw something to Flair, but it goes wild and Flair has to go after it. Mr. T grabs Sherry and takes her away. Flair hits Hogan with the brass knuckles that Sherry threw Flair. He gets a 2 count. Hogan hulking up, shoulder block, big boot, leg drop, and pin. New WCW World Heavyweight Champion. Celebration going on. Shaq presents the belt to Hogan. The crowd cheers. Even though it's WCW, Hogan must pose. They show Hogan's family at ringside. They highlight the end of the match. They show Hogan in the back with Brutus and Hacksaw Jim Duggan. Mean Gene interviews Hulk Hogan. He says everything old is new again. And Hulkamania is running wild. Again, as Gene calls out all the people in the room. Gene, Tony, and Bobby then sign off from Orlando, and we get the end credits. Final thoughts. This was a boon to WCW as the wrestling war heats up. You can follow me on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at TheJoeyHarris. If you like the show, please leave a review on iTunes, Apple Podcasts, or your preferred podcast app. I would really appreciate it. We can also be found on Spotify and YouTube. Just search for the Cup of Joe Wrestling Show and don't forget to hit subscribe. Thank you for joining me. This is Joey saying so long from the heart of Virginia.
The Cup of Joe Wrestling Show is a production of Baby Kangaroo Media.